This is The Rabbit's Foot by Dice Dungeon. I am the witness, a keeper of forgotten truths. Some tales are warnings, meant to deter those who seek more than they should. This is the story of Leonard Miller, a man who learned that luck is never free, and neither are riches. Leonard Miller had always been an unlucky man. His business had failed, his debts were piling up, and his only son James had just enlisted in the military, leaving Leonard and his wife Mary in a home filled with silence. One evening, an old friend, Henry Dalton, paid him a visit. Henry was a traveller, a collector of strange things, and that night he brought something peculiar, a small and mummified rabbit's foot, worn and shriveled, but still intact. "They say it grants 3 wishes," Henry said, placing it on the table, "but be careful what you ask for." Leonard scoffed. "I could use some luck for once." Henry's expression darkened. Luck always comes with a price. That night after Henry left, Leonard turned the rabbit's foot over in his hand. It felt unnatural, like something that had been dead for far too long. With a chuckle, he made his first wish. "I wish for enough money to pay off our debts." The foot grew warm in his palm. A shiver ran down his spine. Dismissing the sensation, Leonard set it aside and went to bed. The next morning, a knock at the door brought 2 solemn-faced officers. They informed Leonard and Mary that their son James had died in a training accident. Grief-stricken, Leonard barely registered the envelope they handed him, one containing a substantial military compensation for their loss, enough to pay all their debts. Days passed in a haze of mourning. Mary inconsolable, but Leonard's grief was mixed with something else. Fear. He knew what had happened was no coincidence. The rabbit's foot had given him what he asked for, just not the way he had expected. Desperation consumed him, and against his better judgment, he made a second wish. "I wish for James to come home." The rabbit foot pulsed in his grip, its shriveled form twitching. The house grew unnervingly silent. Hours passed. Then, as night fell, there came a knock at the door. Mary gasped and ran to open it, but Leonard hesitated. His breath hitched as the knocking grew louder. Something wasn't right. Mary flung the door open, then screamed. James stood in the doorway, his uniform torn and stained with dirt. His face was pale, his eyes sunken, his expression blank. He stepped forward stiffly, arms hanging limp at his side. "Mum?" His voice was hollow and unnatural. Mary collapsed into sobs, clutching at their son, but Leonard staggered back in horror. James was home, but he was not alive. As night stretched on, it became clear that the thing standing in the house was not their son. He did not eat, he did not sleep. He was simply sat in silence, watching them with vacant eyes. Mary refused to accept the truth. "He's here, Leonard. He just needs time." But Leonard knew better. This was not their James. This was a thing wearing his skin. Unable to bear it any longer, Leonard clutched the rabbit's foot one last time. "I wish for things to be as they were before the first wish." A deep, suffocating silence fell over the house. The lights flickered, and then darkness. When Leonard opened his eyes, he was back at the kitchen table, with Henry Dalton sitting across from him, the rabbit foot resting between them. "You haven't wished yet," Henry said with a smirk. Leonard shot to his feet, knocking back his chair. He grabbed the rabbit's foot and held it into the fireplace, releasing a sickly sweet stench. Henry only chuckled. "Smart man." Leonard didn't respond. He only sat there shaking, knowing just how close he had come to losing everything. Some gifts are curses in disguise. Some wishes had never been made. Leonard Miller was given a choice. He chose wisely. But not everyone does. I am the witness, and I warn you, be careful what you wish for, or I will have your story next. I hope you enjoyed that story. That was done by a very talented writer called Dice Dungeon. We hope to feature more of their stories in the future, and if you're interested in any more of their work, the link is in the description below. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.